What's going on, guys? I'm Mike with Michael Anthony Photography. Thank you for checking out my article in this month's Shutter Magazine. Guys, this month we were talking about posing using motion, and there's a lot of ways to use motion when you're posing, but let's talk about why we do it for just a second. There's three elements that I talk about all the time about making, three elements to making a good image, right? You have your light, you have your composition, and then you have your moment or your story. And those two will go hand in hand, but using motion really helps to impact that third element, the motion or the story, right? Because oftentimes when we're taking pictures, we are capturing a moment in time, a simple moment of a much larger story, which is why I love using albums, by the way, because we can lay out multiple images together to help fill the gaps where there is only one image to tell a story, right? Telling a full story using one image can sometimes be like, you know, reading a book and maybe only reading one paragraph of the entire book, right? But when you're using motion in your posing, it allows the viewer to kind of anticipate what may be happening next or what might have preceded what just happened, right? So for instance, a lot of times when we're doing portraits, we might have a couple walking together holding hands, right? Then I might ask the groom to twirl her around like he's dancing with her, then pull her in, give her a kiss, maybe a little dip, right? And it might seem cheesy, right? But when you lay these images out on an album spread, you're gonna get a couple of things. First of all, you're gonna get a story that, you know, obviously there was something that happened there. The groom was walking, he was dancing with his bride. But then what's even more important is that you're going to be able to capture natural emotion that will happen as a result of them interacting with each other, right? Now, I say it all the time, emotion is the #1 driver of your sales, right? So obviously you want to make beautiful pictures. The key to success in business is having a win-win for yourself and for your client. So you want to have beautiful photos, but being able to capture that emotion is going to help drive those sales, right? So when you bring your couple and you might have them interacting, you might be having them walk down a beach, right? You might have them, her come run up behind him, jump on his back. You're gonna capture moments that happen as a direct result of that story that you just created, right? So using motion in your posing is an effective tool to your storytelling abilities and also to being able to shoot for your wedding album or for wall collages. It's going to help you to sell more than just a single picture, right? Another way that I tend to use motion a lot more lately, the last few months, is to slow down my shutter speed. And this is a skill that I'm still developing. It's actually very difficult to do when you're posing moving subjects to get something that actually looks usable and creative and professional at the same time. I can make unprofessional pictures all day long using motion and slow shutter speed, but we want stuff that actually looks good so we can sell our clients, right? So we had a dancer in here a couple of weeks ago, and we were doing her senior pictures. We actually slowed down the shutter speed, and we did multiple exposures using our flash. And we were able to create these really beautiful, interesting pieces that when the client saw them for the first time, they said to us, "We have never seen anything like that." Perfect, right? You get that reaction from your client and you're going to have massive sales. You're also going to have very happy clients, right? Another way that I might do this is I might use a silhouette. I might shoot my client up against a really bright backdrop like the open sky or something like that. I'll slow my shutter speed down to maybe 1/5 of a second. And then I might have just a little bit of motion. This works really, really good if you're shooting a bride who's got a dress or a veil or something like that. It helps to create really beautiful pictures. But in order to do this right, please follow my advice in the actual article that we wrote. Use a tripod, take multiple frames. Just make sure you take a couple of different frames because the back of your camera will lie to you, and ultimately you want to have something that looks good. So you want to make sure you have a lot of options to choose from. Another way that we'll slow down our shutter speed is to actually have things around the subject moving, right? Perfect example of where we might do this is the beach. We live in LA, we shoot at the beach all the time. If you have seen our work, you can definitely know that we do that. If you haven't, go to our website, michaelanthonyphotography.com. You'll see we shoot at the beach all the time. What we like to do is we like to shoot the water coming in and rushing in around the couple. Now, this is easy to do, and it's also hard to do. Sometimes it will require a composite, so if you're unfamiliar with how to blend two images together, there's a lot of online tutorials on that. Go and learn how to do that because you will need that skill set at sometimes when you have to slow your shutter speed too slow for the flash to actually freeze the motion effectively. But in the example we showed in the article, we had a couple sitting down on a rock. We had them huddle up together and hug really tightly. That stopped their side-to-side motion that you'll normally get when people are just standing. And then I stood up on a rock. I didn't use a tripod here because I couldn't get one up that high, but I braced myself up against the rock. I held my elbows in close to my body, controlled my breathing, and slowed my shutter speed down to maybe 1/5 of a second. And that was just enough with the fast moving water to get that really milky effect all around the couple. The last thing I like to do in terms of using motion is to utilize the tools available to me as a wedding photographer specifically. So the veil, great tool to use, right? And what I might do here is I might get down really low behind the bride with a wide angle lens, and I might take the veil and just let the wind catch it, right? When the wind will catch a veil, it's gonna create a leading line, if you do it right, that will swoop right up into the bride, the face, where you want the viewer's attention to go. But it creates this really dynamic triangular composition that will give you some beautiful pictures, and the motion that is involved will actually help to tell a story as well too. If your images are looking bland, right, I definitely recommend adding motion to them and just seeing if you get that desired effect. So for instance, what I might be talking about is if you're posing a bride in a field and it's just a very wide scene, instead of having her just stand there, have her take her dress and run a few steps. Put your camera in high-speed continuous, shoot through that entire moment, and one of those frames might look really good. You might notice that there's something in that story that you were missing prior that looks really beautiful. And I recommend definitely trying to do it if you haven't done it so far. When you're looking at different ways to use motion, you can also use it to help guide the viewer into the direction that you want their eyes to go. So for one instance, you might have a stagnant subject. You might have like a subject on some stairs posed there. You might slow down that shutter speed, and then you might have the bride moving toward him, and she might be kind of blurry, but he's definitely still and steady. These are different creative ways to use motion, and again, you have to use your own, get your own creative juices flowing, get that side of your brain working, and put something together. But just use motion to create emotion. That's one of the sayings that I always use to describe this technique and incorporating it into your album and into your wall art sales. So that's all I have for you guys today. I'd love to see what you guys do with any of this knowledge. Go ahead and tag me in some of your Facebook posts. I always love seeing that. If you guys haven't seen our website yet, please check us out, www.michaelanthonyphotography.com. I look forward to catching you guys in next month's Shutter Magazine. Talk to you soon.